Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe, here in this great hall of justice, are the most powerful forces of good ever assembled.
I'm Batman.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me! Who's got you?
Dooby-dooby-doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Wonder Woman! Wonder Woman!
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
I'm Conor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. I was born in 1518 in the village of Glenfinnan on the shores of Loch Shiel. I am immortal.
I'm Captain Kirk.
I'm a doctor. But probably not the one you expected.
Welcome to a special edition of Geek This Week. This is the second of several panels from the Pensacon 2016 comic book convention from Pensacola, Florida that I attended last month in February. This panel is the Denise Crosby panel. You may know Denise Crosby better from her role on Star Trek The Next Generation as Lieutenant Tasha Yar. She's also done several movies, especially Blake Edward movies such as 10, Skin Deep, Trail of the Pink Panther, Curse of the Pink Panther. She's recently starred in shows such as Ray Donovan, The Walking Dead, and now has a recurring role on The Magicians. So without further ado, enjoy this Denise Crosby panel from Pensacon 2016.
Well, without further ado, cut to the chase. Let's get Denise out here. You've seen her from anything from, well, Star Trek a couple of times, I'm sure, Walking Dead, Ray Donovan, and even The Magicians on Sci-Fi Channel. So please, warm welcome for Denise Crosby. Not a bad theater, just so you know, this is a newly refurbished theater.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah, it was vacant for a long, long time, but now look what we have here today. Just love great.
I am so happy to be here with you guys. What a lovely, charming place Pensacola is. I've never been here before, and this allowed me a little visit. I had enough time, which is rare, to walk around and see this beautiful place and enjoy this fantastic weather. So, all good.
And
I love you guys too. I really do.
I have to say, of course, my what I thought was my first introduction to your work was Star Trek Next Generation, which seems like the obvious one, you know. And then what I was really, really shocked to find out was that you were also in the movie Eliminators.
Eliminators. Where is he? Where are you here?
Just show yourself now.
Wait a minute. Who has the book? He didn't make it yet. Okay. I'm so glad you're talking about Eliminators. There's Eliminators was made by Empire Pictures, which was this great film company in Hollywood in the 80s. And they were going to sort of fill Roger Corman's shoes, of just low-budget beef pictures, and do them in. We shot this film in Spain, and they had a whole system of You don't even make, they don't do this anymore. They used to come up with an idea. And the idea was like, okay, let's put a robot, a jungle guide, a ninja, and a hot blonde in a movie. And they're gonna save the world. Great, let's make a poster. They make a poster. They take the poster and that one line, and they go to Milan, where annually they have the Italian, it's called MiFed, it's the Italian film market, and they sell the idea to foreign distributors. And with that, they take the money and they go back and make the movie. So when I got cast in The Eliminators, they already had a poster. Of course, looked nothing like me. She was like a brunette, you know? And so they had to, you know, redo the poster. But it was just a way of making films that no longer exists in the, you know, old days of B movies, and really charming.
It is a beautiful piece. If you have a chance, YouTube, find the trailer alone for it, and they directly, yeah, exactly that description, all the way from the ninja. Because you have to have the ninja.
You got to have the ninjas were big then, you know, I guess, in the whole kung fu world of filmmaking, and you had to have this. We had what was called a mandroid, and the mandroid was from the waist up a man, and his legs were a tank, and he literally, it was so low tech that the man who played the mandroid was an actor named Patrick Reynolds. He used to be strapped into this like tank, like a Tonka toy, and it would roll, and you would see his body going like this. And he was supposed to be, you know, the mandroid. So he would try to hold still, but you know, the thing was rolling. It's so bad. It's good. It's just, and what this gentleman brought to me today over at the con, there's a new book that's come out on Empire Pictures, and funny enough, I just shot a documentary. I didn't make the documentary, but it was, I'm interviewed in it about Empire Pictures. So you're gonna, I think it's time is now. It's coming, you know, out, and you know, we no longer have to apologize for our involvement in Empire Pictures.
It's a lot like having a mullet back in the day.
Yeah.
It's all good now. You just embrace it for the time.
Let's embrace our wacky world that we live in, and just let our, you know, freak flags fly.
There you go. And if you're familiar with the internet sensation of Kung Fury, it's really is what they're ripping off is the original there. So when you bring up documentaries, Trekkies, and Trekkies 2, of course. It would seem to me, and this maybe it's its own little paradox, is that a lot of cons, conventions, Star Trek conventions in particular, the fans come to the talent, where through that series you actually went to the fans.
Right.
How much of a different insight did that give you into, well, the fans of Star Trek?
Well, you know, Trekkies came out of my, you know, my journey into this world of very symbiotic relationship with fans. You know, Star Trek exists because of the fans. I mean, there would be no Star Trek. It is the most connected relationship with fandom that I've ever seen. I mean, you know, they don't have you know, Law and Order conventions, you know. I mean, it's really a unique. Yet, I mean, they might. I hope soon enough, because everybody's doing it now. But I mean, you know, Star Trek is the granddaddy of them all. And I would go to conventions, and I would come back home to my family in LA, and friends of mine who had never seen an episode of Star Trek, wasn't their thing. They were fascinated that they were having conventions. And they would say, "You did what?" I said, "Well, I went to a convention in, you know, Missouri." "And do you dress up? You mean people come and ask you questions? Wow, you sign autographs?" And I realized that the masses, everyone else was really fascinated. They didn't understand what was going on. And I said, I just thought, the fans need a voice. They need to be able to tell their story and what this is. Because it was too easy, for the 11 o'clock news to say, hey, well, there's another Star Trek convention in town, ladies and gentlemen. Get on those Spock ears and come on down to, so-and-so. And I thought, they're missing the story, because fandom has, created its own family, its own tribe of friends. People are, they're doing all kinds of charitable things, fan groups. They're also being inspired to go into the fields of science and engineering and medicine. I met a woman today who told me her daughter, became she's building satellites. She's an engineer because of watching Geordie LaForge, and so much was going on that wasn't being revealed. So I said, you know what? I'm going to turn the camera around, because I became fascinated by the stories I was hearing from fans.
I wonder how much you actually had a chance to follow up with some of the people you interviewed, and particularly, I think it was a British guy that had his apartment up for $1 million for sale. It looks like. Did you know if he ever sold that?
I don't think he did. Was the last I heard, and I've not followed up on him. I do stay in touch with the young boy who was in Trekkies. He was 14.
From 1 and 2.
Yes, Gabriel Kerner. He went on, as expected, to design all kinds of special effects for major television and movie. He called me once on his way to the Emmys. He was nominated. I've never been nominated, but Gabriel was nominated, and he wanted to thank me for opening the doors and giving him, the opportunity and encouragement. And I went, great, Gabriel. Damn it. No, kidding.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
We do have a question.
Right.
Hi, actually, I don't have a question, but as a third-generation Pensacolian, I wanted to welcome you to the area.
Thank you.
And also, I want to say that I've been a Star Trek fan forever, and The Next Generation was my favorite, and you are one of my favorite characters. So thank you very much for coming.
It is my pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Wow. That's a tall man right there.
Yeah, if I could only get parts for something for tall people one day. You were on The Magicians.
Yes.
I want to influence the rest of the group here to go on social media and promote your character. I think she was incredibly enthusiastic as far as
Spunky.
and spunky, yes. Yes, but thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if anybody's caught The Magicians yet. It's a new series based on the trilogy of books that Lev Grossman wrote. Very popular. They're kind of calling it an adult Harry Potter, so to speak. But it's a wonderful series with some really talented up-and-coming actors, and written by two phenomenal writers, Sarah Gamble and John McNamara, who just wrote the film Trumbo. That is getting a lot of recognition. It's gotten Bryan Cranston an Oscar nomination. So it's about 5 shows in on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I was introduced, my character, I play a wonderfully powerful magician, a mentor to my young niece, who we come from a long line of magicians, and the character I play is Genji, and it is just divine because the clothes alone that I'm wearing are just wonderful. It's just all vintage, fun stuff, and the show just got picked up for a 2nd season, so hopefully I'll be recurring. So if you're on social media, go, we love Genji. Let's start a campaign.
Thank you. And I wanted to thank you for your character and the way you portrayed your character throughout The Next Generation. She's very strong and sometimes dealing with difficult history and past, and you did a wonderful job of it. It was very helpful to at least one of my daughters.
Oh,
who had
that's
to deal with
so
some things, and
beautiful.
it was very helpful for her. To
Thank
see
you
you
so
were such a
much.
strong character, I can come out of something like that.
Let me follow up on that. That character that you played in Next Generation, Tasha Yar, was actually a standout character for several different reasons, and probably even something meant for later on where it got to Deep Space Nine, when we really think about it. Everybody else kind of came from a sense of royalty, entitlement, somewhere high, like Picard, it's too much time on the vineyard, daddy issues, and you actually had some really serious drama when your character. How was that approached by you, or even how they approached you doing it?
Well, wow. I was really happy that the role of Tasha had some underbelly to her, because the risk with Star Trek was always that it was just too perfect, that there was no conflict, and that's just not interesting in drama. What is so compelling with watching characters is when they're struggling with their demons, and whether they succumb to them or overcome them. But the struggle is what is so, and we all have them. We're all fighting against something, and so I was really always trying to find ways to make Tasha human, and vulnerable and frightened or angry, or all of the tools in my toolbox. So it was great that she had this dimension to her that was so tormented, and how great of a thing that she was able to overcome such tragedy, and rise to the top of the class.
Well, as they say, a candle that burns twice as bright.
Yeah, sweet.
Sir.
First of all, I'd like to welcome you to the city of Pensacola, everyone.
Thank you.
The second question is, how did it feel to be on Star Trek Phase 2, the fan series, and how did that compare to be on Star Trek, be on Star Trek, The Next Generation? Also, as you may or may not know, that Star Trek Renegades is working on filming its production, into which Walter Cohen will be filming his final role as Commander Chekhov. Aside from the role of Tasha Yar, you also played the role as Commander Sella as well. Do you know if there's a chance of you reprising your role as Commander Sella in Star Trek Renegades?
Well, I think that's always the charm of sci-fi, is really nobody ever makes an exit. They always take
Boy, once I saw yesterday's Enterprise script and Tasha was back, I now know to never say never, Yes, Commander Sela, has been very much alive on the Star Trek Online world. She has become the Empress of Romulus, rightfully so. So, she's alive and kicking. So all bets are off with her. She very much could reappear. And the fan film thing was interesting. I had already made Trekkies, so I was well connected with fandom, and it was just another, to me, it was almost like an art project, the blurring of the lines. You guys are the fans making a show that like a tribute to something you love so much, using one of the real actors that was in it. So it became to me more of an art project to do, if it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. But
yeah.
That also begs the question, I don't know if you've heard this or not, Star Trek Axanar is a new project that's coming out of the woodwork. They released a new video called Prelude to Axanar, but there brings in the next problem. CBS has filed a lawsuit against the production team against Star Trek Axanar. What is your opinion? What is your opinion if you've had one, or are you preferring to remain neutral until the court case?
Well, the Romulan neutral zone is pretty famous. Just saying.
In my opinion, I don't think CBS has no idea what sort of hell they've unleashed.
Well, on advice by my attorney, I'll plead the fifth. No, I think CBS should leave everybody alone and leave all the fans alone and not touch anything and let everybody do what they want to do. They don't really get how Star Trek works. And Star Trek works by the fans creating the world of Star Trek for themselves as well. It's not going to hurt their franchise. It's only going to help their franchise. It's only going to spread the word of Star Trek. They should really, I would tell them to just absolutely leave them, let everyone do what they want to do with Star Trek.
Unfortunately, however, it's the 50th anniversary. They released a trailer for Star Trek Beyond.
Well, there is a reboot coming, so actually I'm eagerly looking forward to see what they do with the next step of things.
And the problem is that with photos showing that it's actually looking better than the product they have out, that levered in
all those things.
Exactly.
But I should let
you have a question behind you.
Ask her question.
My apologies.
No, thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I just wanted to say on behalf of Gabe, Gabe told me to say hi to you this morning, so hi from Gabe.
Oh, see, that's right, Gabe. Damn him, he's always around.
He is. As a member of Team Axanar, and he's on Team Axanar too, so yeah.
I love him.
And just as an aside, don't diss CBS. CBS was dragged in. It's actually Paramount leading the suit. Oh, I'm not allowed to say anything more than that. Seriously, I'm not.
Yeah.
My question was to go back to what you were asked before about the character of Tasha Yar. I've written a couple of Star Trek novels myself, and my fascination with TNG in terms of how Tasha influenced the other characters. She was only briefly on the show for the first season, and yet when you go through the years of TNG, each character has a moment when they reflect back on how she influenced the paths that they then chose. And so I wondered if you would speak to that, to how did Tasha become such a powerful force in TNG in the brief time that she was there?
That's an interesting question. I think when we distance ourselves from it and look back, you see that she was, I think, in a way, the most spontaneous, the most emotional, kind of the fiery one on the ship. And so that I also shocked everyone and shook the whole foundation by leaving.
Right.
And that resonated, I think, throughout the show. That absolutely was not my intention, was not to, hey, what if I do this? This will show them. No, it was, I've talked about it over the years in different ways. It was the first year of TNG, the writing just wasn't there. It was a mess. And I was so afraid of spending the next 6 years on that bridge just going, aye, aye, Captain.
Right.
I didn't want that to be my career. And it was a choice I made to leave after months of talking to family and friends and, the other cast members. So, but I think by that happening, it was a pretty big deal and resonated in ways that, you know, were subtle throughout.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then the idea of the time period it was made, there wasn't a lot of shows killing off main characters. So unheard of across the board pretty much.
Absolutely. Hi.
Let's talk about the other end of Florida. I loved Key West. What a great show.
What a great, I love that we're talking about Key West.
Do you think it'll ever be made available? Because you can't get it anywhere.
I know you can't. I would hope so. I would hope so. You know, that show was just a heartbreaker for me to not get picked up again. You know, it was one of those shows that was, I think, just ahead of its time and would have caught on had another season been ordered. And, you know, it fell victim to the typical studio problems. The head of television for Fox left during the middle of our run and became the head of motion picture part. So they brought in a new guy to run the television department, and the new guys don't want what the old guys ordered. They want to scratch it and start with their own ideas. So we just fell victim to, you know, the politics of the studio. But I mean, to make a series in Key West, and that was just a great role I had. You know, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it had the flavor of like northern exposure, you know, just this eclectic group of people living in a very unique place. And I played the mayor, you know, this very staunch, right-wing Republican mayor of probably the most liberal place on earth, you know, and dealing with my own crazy, you know, recovering alcoholic and, you know, just trying to keep it together all the time in this very crazy world of Key West. So it was just a great part with Jennifer Tilly and Fisher Stevens and, you know, all kinds of eclectic Rastafarians and all kinds of people. Thank you.
Like the skull thing you got.
Oh, my skull poncho. Thank you.
Actually, on the subject of politicians and political issues, you also played a couple roles in Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah. That small little show that nobody watches. Wow. So, were you pro or oblivious to the whole zombie trend? Okay, so I go into, I love this story about The Walking Dead. I get a call to come and meet for The Walking Dead. Never seen the show. Never seen the show. So but I know, I mean, everybody talks about The Walking Dead. So I go in, and they've written a scene for my audition that has absolutely nothing to do with The Walking Dead. It is a scene that a woman goes to a friend of hers who's works at a car dealership, and she needs now to buy a vehicle that's handicap accessible because her husband has just had a pretty bad accident and is in a wheelchair. So now she goes to her friend and says, you know, I got to get a new van, you know, and you know, can you give it to me at your best price? And he said, you know, Martha, I'm going to give you the best price we've got. It's, you know, so and so. And she goes, Bob, come on. I know you can do better than that. I know you guys have, you know, a couple sets of numbers. So give me the real number, you know, the real number that you can do this for. He goes, Martha, I'm telling you, that's the best I can do. That's the best price I can do for this car. She said, well, you know, Bob, here's the thing. I mean, you don't really want me to go to your wife, Linda, and tell her that I saw you checking into the Motel 6 the other night with Debbie. I really don't want to tell her that, you know. I mean, but she is one of my oldest friends, and I feel like, you know, I'm gonna be right back. That's the scene. Okay? No zombies, no terminus, no, you know, run for your life and save yourself. I go, this is from The Walking Dead? And they go, no, it's not, we can't give you anything from The Walking Dead because it's top secret. So we can't let anything out. So we have to write something that has nothing to do with The Walking Dead. So I said, okay. So, you know, I do this scene and like a month goes by. I don't hear anything. So I thought, well, you know, whatever, that was weird. So they, all of a sudden I get a call from my agent. Oh, you know, guess what? You're going to do this part on The Walking Dead. And you're going to go to Atlanta. They want to see you in Atlanta in a couple weeks. I said, well, but what part am I doing? Because that part doesn't exist. Oh, they'll let you know. They'll let you know when you get there. I said, well, is it a part I want to do? Yeah, you'll want to do it. I think you'll want it. It's a really interesting story. They'll tell you. They'll tell you. So I blindly show up in Atlanta. And okay, so first I knew I was wearing a wig because I was fitted in LA for that long wig. Still don't know what I'm playing. I know I'm a woman with a wig on. So I get to Atlanta and Scott Gimple, the showrunner, says, I said, can you like tell me what's going on? Oh yes, you do need to know, right? Okay. So our people are getting to Terminus. And Terminus is like a refuge, and they're finally going to have some peace. But we find out Terminus isn't exactly what it purports to be. And that's all you need to know. Okay, great. And you're going to be like cooking some food when they get there, and you're going to make them some food, and you don't really know what you're cooking. You don't know what I'm cooking. What am I cooking? Well, it's meat, but it's maybe meat. Wow. I said, I'm liking this. This is getting better and better. All right, I'm going for it. So, you know, had no idea what I was doing, you know? But they're so great, and everybody's so good. When I got to the set, I remember I went into the makeup trailer, and Andrew Lincoln was down at one end, and he jumped up, and he gave me the biggest hug. And he said, I'm so glad you're here. I just love you, and I'm so grateful you're doing the show. And I'm thinking, God, does he think I'm Meryl Streep or something? He doesn't even know who I am. But they were so lovely and welcoming and grateful, and you know, love it.
And you died.
And then yes. And then they took a real big, but I didn't know, you know, what Terminus, if it was going to be a whole season or what, and you know, they just get ideas and they go for it.
You came back for a question this time, huh?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I had a question this time. So I was interested in what you just said about the fact that you're quitting the Next Generation. Sort of seemed to shake everybody up because you didn't want to spend all your time just saying, yes, Captain, yes, Captain. And it reminded me of Michelle Nichols when she was asked by Martin Luther King to stay on the show because she was such a representative, you know, of what could be. And I love the diversity of Star Trek. So I'm wondering if you think that perhaps by doing that, you made the people look in a different direction about women in general, and consider them more than just sort of window dressing, and interested in giving them more interesting parts in the future?
I do think it got better. You know, I really threw them a curveball, and again, not intentionally, because what I later found out, which Marina told me, which I had no idea was going to happen, that at the end of the first season, she was going to be let go. And because I left, they could no longer do that. And so she told me this at a panel one day, like live. And she said, I have you you to thank for my career. And I went, my God. Okay, now you're gonna just hand me the money. No, you know, I had no idea they were gonna do that. And she said, yep, I was told that later. And, you know, there was, I mean, Gates was let go after that season. And, you know, it was, which is not untypical of television. You'll oftentimes actors will be cast, they'll shoot the pilot, the producers will look at it and they'll recast. There's a lot of recasting that goes on. So by the time you guys are watching the show, you have no idea that somebody else actually played that part. Happens quite a bit. So I think when Michael Piller came in to the Next Gen, it changed the writing. You know, they were struggling with writers. It's a very hard show to write. You know, good science fiction is really hard to write. And they finally got their pieces together for the show.
And of course the writing did, in fact, give them.
Yes, it did, for sure.
Question?
Earlier, when you first came in for your panel, you were talking about how your role as a woman in science fiction, as a woman in media. There are so few women in media who are good examples for younger girls. I mean, we have The Force Awakens with Rey. I just saw like a little 4-year-old Rey the other day, and my heart just burst. I didn't grow up with Star Trek. I didn't grow up with Star Wars. I grew up with Stargate. And I had Amanda Tapping, who was my absolute role model. And I know you said earlier you've done, the Trekkies movies, going to the fans, talking about, their experiences. Have you ever considered putting together, a group of other women in sci-fi media, encouraging girls to go into the STEM sciences and doing something with them, figuring out where their inspirations were to go into STEM sciences from women that they saw in media, Samantha Carter blowing up a sun, inspiring someone to go into astrophysics, things like that?
It's a beautiful idea, and I think we are doing that in our own way. I think by doing the work that we do and speaking, like to groups like this and meeting fans and encouraging them, to go forward in that way. Over the years, I've met so many young girls and then parents of young girls who told me, that the character I played was a huge meaning. It had such great meaning to them in their lives. They found strength in that, and there weren't other women on TV that they saw in this kind of position. So, how great that was. As a matter of fact, when the rumors came out that I was going to leave the show, I was getting fan mail that I could no longer read because, there were women threatening themselves if I left. And I couldn't bear that, the weight of that.
It's difficult to be given that responsibility when you have
Yeah, and it,
by virtue of being so rare.
Yeah, it's misplaced, and I couldn't take on that responsibility. But it is a great testament and compliment to me when I hear that young girls found some inspiration, because we need it. We all need it. I needed it when I was a young girl, and that is probably the greatest sort of benefit out of all of this. If one girl by chance latched on and found some sort of identity and meaning and strength from watching Tasha Yar go through what she went through, is wow. It's incredible.
In an educational side note, I will say that women have 70 to 80% of the buying power in households, and that's how TV works. So if you don't want to see it, stop watching it, and they'll make what you want to watch.
I like it.
With sci-fi, you obviously huge fan base, and you said, I would love to see a very depressing Law and Order convention. But you also get into non-sci-fi roles. Donovan being one of them. Tell me a little bit about that. I have not seen an episode of it. I'm sorry, I regret to say. But so tell me a little bit about that role.
No worries. So Ray Donovan, very different world. It's a drama that Ray Donovan is a Southie, a Boston Southie transplant to California. He's a fixer. So he's employed by some very, very deep pockets and big, powerful lawyers who have a lot of secrets that need fixing. And one of which was Elliot Gould, who played I was his mistress for many, many, many years. Later, finally between season 2 and 3, we got married. So I was his wife. And Liev Schreiber plays Ray Donovan. And he is one of 3 brothers who, all from Boston. Their father is played by John Voight, who just gets out of a 25-year jail sentence that Ray was responsible for putting him behind bars. So it's this very complicated family story involving kind of circling around Ray's, fixing things. So, season 4 is shooting right now, and I just am going back at the end of March to, I don't know, hopefully they'll give me a script. It won't be like Walking Dead. They'll actually, I don't have a script, so I don't know what I'm doing yet in this new part. It should be interesting though, because my husband died and he knew all of the secrets that Ray, pretty much created Ray. So somehow I may know things too, which it could get really interesting. And it's a great show. It was created by Ann Bitterman, who, Ray is the second show I've done for her. She created the show Southland. I don't know if you guys watch Southland, but it was a great pop show. And so now she's doing this.
Well, nothing but rave reviews so far from what I've heard about the show.
People seem to be liking it. It's just very, very dark.
Yeah, weird how people like that.
Yeah, well, you can watch from the safety of your own living room.
You have another question?
I actually have a question about Ray Donovan.
Oh, great.
You had a fabulous scene where you threw Ray out of your life, essentially. And I was hoping, it's great to hear that you are coming back to the show, that role for a really strong woman and stepping into that role for what Elliot Gould was doing should, hopefully, if that's what's happening.
I know, right?
That
That's a
should
good way
be
they
amazing.
could go.
Yeah. But my question was, because that scene was so extreme and it was amazingly acted, how did you prepare for that much emotion and that much that was a huge scene.
It's, a lot of what happens is, at least for me, first of all, I adored Elliot personally, okay? So we were actually filming in a cemetery, a very old cemetery in LA. And so the environment begins to help you get there, And we're in the little temple. It was a Jewish cemetery, and we're in the little temple on the grounds, and there's a coffin there, and there's a big giant portrait of Elliot, on an easel, and it was just very easy for me to imagine, that happening. And so the emotion, was already bubbling inside. So it was, it was really pretty easy. And I just loved being able to just give Liev Schreiber a piece of my mind. It was like, Yeah, you think, I mean, you know, those are my little secrets I won't let you in on, but, you know, it was like, oh yeah, bring it on, baby. And, you know, in other words, it was very easy for me to act that scene.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I think I have time for one more question from the audience, if anybody has one. Oh, there we go.
Oh, good.
I'll do this. To me, you're Tasha Yar. I grew up watching you. You're amazing.
Oh.
To my husband, for years you've been your Pet Cemetery role. That has been his role for you until Terminus Mary. And so now, I think most people, iconic figures, have a role that speaks to one person or another. So you're always, you know, I look at you, Tasha Yar, he looks at you there. But now you've morphed into Pet Cemetery Mary.
Has a nice ring to it.
This is how, and so I cannot personally watch The Walking Dead, unfortunately. It's a bit much for me. But when he saw you for that first, he came running out of our bedroom, which is where he watches it, and grabbed me and said, Denise Crosby is Terminus Mary. And then set me back down and ran back and came out later to tell me, I'm like, who's Terminus Mary? That doesn't sound good. Is she diseased? So he came out.
Typhoid Mary, you're thinking.
Maybe so, but he came out and he talks to me about the show all the time, but your character is one that he thoroughly enjoyed. And he said to me after watching you progress through the character, he doesn't think it could have been cast better. He really doesn't.
I think that's a compliment.
It is. I know, it sounds awful, but he just felt like you really embodied a role that he knew was very difficult. And so, more than a question, it's just I want to say to you that there was a moment in my home that was incredibly chaotic and exciting, and my husband's not that way, but it was. So thank you for giving him that moment.
Great. You know, it's so funny because I had to sign a non-disclosure, of course, you know, for The Walking Dead. So I couldn't tell anybody I was actually doing it. So I literally, my husband and son knew, and I like made them swear within an inch of their life, you know, do not talk about this. Don't tell your friends at school. Because my son is 17. So all those boys, I tell you, I was like the coolest mom on campus, okay? I would go to his baseball games and, you know, it's like, ew, don't say hi to your mom. It's like, suddenly I was on The Walking Dead. Oh, wow, Mrs. Crosby, you're so cool. Yeah, I know. So when I came on for the first time, I just checked like social media. Oh my God, people were like going, Tasha Yar is on The Walking Dead. Like they put it together. It was just, I think that there was like the earth, you know, stopped rotating for a minute, you know, all this, because, well, everyone collected their thoughts. Like they couldn't put it together.
Well, they're so different.
Yeah.
Polar opposites of everything.
Right, and there was no leaks or anything, so it was really fun. Of course, you know, all the producers of The Walking Dead are huge Trekkies.
Yes.
So they were just, you know, we used to make jokes all the time, like, you know, why doesn't Mary have a phaser? Then she could take Carol out, you know?
Well, thank you very much. And before we hit a thunderous round of applause, I would like to say there's a real treat ahead for anybody who's a Star Trek fan. Photo op, Michael Dorn, Denise Crosby, 2 o'clock at the, just want to make sure I get the name right for that, Wolf Studio photography booth. It's all the way in the back corner there. Mm-hmm. And of course, Denise, you're not here tomorrow, right?
I am not. I was so grateful to be able to come this weekend. I'm in the middle of shooting a movie right now up in Merced, California, which is in the beautiful farmland of Central California, and I need to get back to that set Monday. So I need a day to actually unpack my suitcase, wash my clothes, and repack my suitcase to get up to Merced. So I'm grateful.
So outside of the photo booth, you'll also be up in the Celebrity Hall as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So now's your chance to see it before she's gone, so make a point to do that. And with that, thunderous round of applause. And a couple of housekeeping notes. That